Hello, 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 everyone. How are you doing? I hope you're having an amazing morning or afternoon wherever you are. Welcome to the Impact Tribe podcast, where we meet exceptional people who create a positive impact on the world. I'm your host, Ashley Bright. We're streaming live on LinkedIn and YouTube, and I'm very excited because in 2025, I actually separated out. I had this channel sort of shared with all my other platforms, and now I've broken out. We have a new Instagram channel as well as YouTube channels that are dedicated to the Impact Tribe podcast. And so I'd love it if you could go follow, subscribe. It's just the Impact Tribe podcast on YouTube and Instagram. And so thank you in advance for that. I also want to give a big shout out to our sponsor, Opus Clip. If you're not familiar with Opus Clip, I love Opus Clip. They are an AI generated piece of online software that will take your long form videos, like this podcast, for example, and turn it into short, bite-sized chunks that you can share on social media. It does all the captioning. It's fabulous. I highly recommend. And so if you are interested, we are offering a 30% discount if you use that little code there. That would be awesome to support our sponsors. So thank you in advance for that. All right, now, without any further ado, I want to get to our guest today. I am super excited to welcome an HR veteran, master salary negotiator, and career growth expert. She is the CEO and founder of the Salary Bump, who is on a mission to empower people to understand their worth in the market. And let me do the da-da-da-da-da big reveal and bring her up to the stage. There she is. Welcome. Put your hands together, Owen, for Keri-Lynne Shaw.
Hi, thanks for having me.
How are you doing?
I'm amazing. 25 is starting off great and feeling good, ready to be here.
That is wonderful, wonderful. So thank you for being here. I love it. And you're wearing this wonderful bright top and, bringing some joy and energy to the day. And so how has 2025 been going for you so far?
Well, I mean, obviously there's a lot going on in the world that
This is true.
has been incredibly challenging for a lot of our friends in California and beyond. Personally, I launched my company a year ago. So this January, I'm starting from a completely different place. I went through massive expansion, a little bit of stress, a little bit of, is this going to work? Is this what I should be doing? Should I be going back to corporate? Is this really going to be what I thought it was going to be? And the answer is yes, it is everything that I thought it would be. So starting this year from a place of really being in the driver's seat, having learned so much about myself, about my clients, about my ideal client, about my business, about everything from never having been on video before and my 22-year-old Gen Zer laughing at me on TikTok, or, launching a website, launching a podcast, all the things that I had no idea about. I knew about the work, but I didn't know about all the other semantics of how to build a company and drive people to it. So I'm starting off having done a beautiful reflection of 24 and set some beautiful goals. I'm on fire so far, feeling amazing. Really, I'm really excited about what's to come.
That's great. It sounds like you used last year as a very productive year. You've learned a lot. And I've been following you on TikTok. Who knows what's going to happen to that platform over the next week or so, but I was appreciating seeing all your content there. And I love the energy that you bring and your thoughtfulness that you're sharing with people. And I think you are talking about a subject and a topic area that is really, really critical and across all industries and all different sorts of people and different roles. And so would you mind sharing a little bit more about kind of what you do and what Salary Bump is all about?
Sure. So I would say first 2 decades of my career, I didn't negotiate. A couple of reasons, and I know I'm not unique. I didn't know I could in the very beginning. I see this a lot with some of the early college grads that I work with. If I did know that I could, I was deathly afraid of it because I was worried that they might think that I wanted the money more than I wanted the job.
Mhm.
And there was a third voice in my head and noise that I think a lot of women experience, and that is that women are terrible negotiators.
Mm.
So I think I tried it in my early days and failed miserably, and then assumed that, oh yeah, this stat's true. That statement is true.
Mm-hmm.
And I just felt like, listen, Kay, I'll do really good work and the money will come. And so over that 20-year experience, the money did come. And to an extent, of course it did. And I had a lovely run, lovely career. And then I fell into HR by
Mm.
total accident. It was not on my trajectory, didn't even know the department existed. Never had to deal with HR. Most of the jobs that I got were through my network. So I never really had to interview or go through any of those processes. And sitting in the HR seat and that curtain that a lot of people are afraid of or don't know what's behind it, really gave me massive insight into the amount of people over that 10 years that I spent in HR of interviewing and making offers, so many of them doing it wrong.
Mm.
And for those that did it right, I took notes. And from that, I created the salary bump, because one of my goals has always been to help you get in the driver's seat of your career. And I would say, straddling the driver's seat and the passenger seat. I was in the driver's seat, but I didn't know I was.
Mm.
Just with some of the practices and networking and the way I showed up and my attitude and my behaviors and my deliverables and just like how I showed up as an employee. I want people to be more consciously in the driver's seat, and what does it actually mean to drive your own career, because no one is driving it for you.
Mm-hmm.
Not your favorite boss, your best boss, certainly not your worst boss. And so the sooner you actually map out that plan and start to plant the seeds of where you want to go in your career, the sooner you're going to be able to get there. And so all the things over these 30 years that I wish I had known, I will say almost everybody I meet says, Kale, I wish I knew you 20 years ago. And I say, I wish I knew myself 20 years ago. So actually, I'm pulling that 30 years of being a good corporate citizen, pulling the curtain back on HR and really giving people all the things that they need to map out that real roadmap to figure out, what do I really want? And how do I actually give myself a more fulfilling career? Because this is not a 9 to 5. We're not punching clocks.
Mm-hmm.
If the pandemic taught us anything, it flipped everything on its head and made us realize that, oh no, we can insert a little bit of a different approach to how we work, how we show up at work, or work from home, or work from somewhere else. So yeah, it's sort of, I guess, my life's work coming together, and it's the most fun I've ever had. I'm making the biggest impact I think I've ever made, and I couldn't be more excited about what the future holds.
That's wonderful. It's so funny that you brought it up, because as you were speaking, I was thinking exactly what you said, which was, I wish I'd known this. I wish I'd had that sense of creating a path, creating, a very conscious effort on where do I want to be, and what do I want to do, and what am I worth, and where do I want to end up. And I've said this for years now, that I kind of just, people would give me praise for something, and I'd sort of lean that way. And then I'd get praise and I'd lean that way. And I've later come to realize that I had something of a fixed mindset. I tended to go where I knew I could be successful. And so I can relate. I can relate
Wow.
needing that perspective.
That is so profound. Also, this idea of validation. And I do think that I can relate very much. The validation that I think I was always seeking was what fueled me. And so then I was chasing the validation versus actually being really confident in who I was. So I wasn't living consciously. Let's just say that, and really honing in. So let's say if you looked back on your 20 years,
Mm-hmm.
knowing what you know now, what if anything would you have done differently with that new perspective?
Well, I think obviously having that presence of mind, I think I would have been starting to think about where do I want to go? What's the trajectory? And I think it's interesting because when I went to college, I had a fairly clear path in my mind where I wanted to go. And then in college, this thing called the internet happened. And it kind of threw me sideways, but in a positive way. And I kind of embraced it and just went with it. And as a result, I deviated from where I was originally going. And you're young and you're cocky and you're kind of just getting hit from all sides. But as I was saying, it's like, as you mentioned, that validation. And so it'd be like, oh, well, I keep getting some validation over here. I should, oh, and they want to hire me. And oh, and to your point, I mean, I was not thinking about my value and my worth. I was not thinking about what I truly enjoyed and what I wanted to be doing or what was at my core. I was very much chasing that validation. Now, I say that obviously I had some skill set for it and some awareness, but it wasn't truthfully until my first son was born, and it kind of, there's nothing like kids to change that perspective on the world.
Yeah.
And suddenly I realized that like, I've achieved some of these things I thought I wanted, but I'm not really feeling fulfilled, and I'm not really sure where I'm going. And what happened to that dream I had, 10 years ago?
Yeah.
And it's kind of wild. You get in this place now where it's like, well, better late than never. Because, as long as I'm still breathing, I can still sort of have some impact on people and my own career.
Well, all of it impacted who you are today, right? So
Absolutely.
every bit, I'm a learner. I'm
Mm-hmm.
always saying yes to every opportunity because it helps me grow. And maybe I said yes to things that I wouldn't have now, or if I had been more conscious of it, but I don't regret any of it. All of it really brought me to where I am. Um, yeah, so it's super interesting to look at it from that perspective. I ask my clients 3 questions when I meet them. So it doesn't matter what age you are, what stage you are in your career. I want to know what you love, what
Mm-hmm.
really lights your fire, like what you're really passionate about. I want to know what you're really good at, hands tied behind your back, eyes closed, really innately good at. And I want to know how you want to make an impact on the world. Those 3 questions, most people have never asked themselves. Most of my clients didn't have never asked. Help frame your talent reel, which is your elevator pitch. I don't love the word elevator pitch anymore,
Mm-hmm.
so I call it a talent reel. So when someone asks you, tell me about yourself, you can share these really deep things that are very natural to who you are, what gets you really excited. That's fulfillment. So if you can
Mm-hmm.
work in an environment where those 3 things are being met, ooh, now we're on to something. And everyone's 3 things are going to be different.
Mm-hmm.
And answering with that versus tell me about myself and yourself, and you go through your career past, that sparks something interesting. When you tell someone the answer to those 3 things, that sparks a whole different conversation. That could be something you never even thought of, that really put you in a position to round out, oh gosh, like I can have a career that I love
Mm-hmm.
and be doing something I'm really, really good at.
Yeah, it's powerful because, especially nowadays, I think that things are changing so quickly, and there's all these sort of hybrid roles, and that idea of like it's not what's on your resume, it's not the kind of the what's and the titles and the roles, it's to that those core questions, so that it may be something a role that doesn't exist yet, but when you connect and share that with someone that it resonates, they go, I've been thinking about creating this opportunity, or maybe, hey, we should partner and do something with this.
Ashley, I cannot. Oh, I love what you just said. As a
Good thing we're
CHRO,
recording.
good thing we're recording. As a CHRO, I would meet people every single day inside the organization who I would ask those questions to, and they would share, and it would spark,
Mm,
ooh, because I'm looking ahead. I'm looking at what we need for the future of the organization. We're always looking at the org,
hmm
what we need, what we have, what we don't have, where we're filling holes, jobs coming up. The amount of roles I've created for people as a result of those conversations, unreal.
hmm
So many times we've been able to do that. Now that's maybe Not every organization was able to do that. Some more progressive leaders that, allow the flexibility to do that. Today, it's a little bit more complicated. I think they're looking a little bit more for unicorns and that you check everything, every single box. But if you're inside an organization or having a conversation with someone like you, just a networking call, the idea to spark something and even spark perhaps a side hustle, spark something that you didn't even think that you could do from a business perspective that you could try. So many opportunities. We just have to find them.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. That's the thing. So many opportunities, but how do you find them? And it's interesting. My oldest is 17 right now, and he's on the hunt for his first job and has found it incredibly challenging. And it's obviously very different than when I was doing that, where I don't even, it was literally like a friend of mine worked at the gas station, and I'm like, hey, can you get me a job? Yeah, sure. And like, you had a job. It's a different world now. And I was saying to him to, not in as succinct a way as you phrased it around those three questions, but really just getting clear on, what excites him and what sort of drives him forward, and making that distinction, I guess, between kind of the part-time jobs he wants to do after school to get a little bit of money versus kind of where he's going with his career. And he was getting wrapped up in the how. And I said to him, like, don't get mixed up in that. Like, start, like, really focus on kind of what excites you and what drives you, and keep moving towards that. And the how will sort of fill itself in.
You know why that's so beautiful and so important? First of all, I think every young person should work at a restaurant. It is the best education that he will get. My daughter started as a hostess, then went into a waitress, and now she's bartending. They love her so much at her restaurant that they taught her how to bartend, and like such a cool experience for her. What's interesting is then her building her talent reel at 22 years old and meeting all of her regulars at the bar who are professionals, lawyers, business owners. When they say, tell me what you're thinking, where are you going after college? Guess what? She's able to share that. Your son will then be able to share the things that light his fire. Then doors start popping and opening because of just those conversations. The networking and sharing your story is so powerful and so meaningful at any age, at any stage of your life. If you can answer those three questions and find a way to articulate it that flows really like just off of your tongue when someone says to tell you about themselves. I mean, no matter where you are at a networking event, people are constantly wanting to get to know you and ask you those questions. So get clear on that and see what sparks. I'm sure it'll spark some joy, like your sign behind you, and hopefully open some doors.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's I was having a conversation with someone the other day, and we were talking about, and I'm losing my train of thought. It'll come back to me. Come back to me.
Yeah.
It was a profound statement. It'll come back to me.
Oh, I'm sure it is. We're always thinking of so many things. I have to write things down. That's just my thing. But yeah, I said something earlier about networking and just about how almost every job I've received in my career was through my network, but it was also me saying yes and having the courage to walk through the door and not knowing or having the skills of any of these things. I was a terrible student. I had crappy grades in high school. I started out in college studying special ed, which was not what I wanted to do. Then I went into business. I almost failed out of college in my early days and not knowing what I wanted. And as soon as I got into studying business, I had a 3.8 average, which, was not too shabby for some girl that, felt really dumb. And when I actually got to do the things that really drove me. And so these ideas of putting myself out there and saying yes and having the courage to walk through the door in almost every job, I didn't have a clue. I didn't know how to spell HR. I did not know what it meant to take on almost any role that I was ever part of. I just said yes and knew that I would figure it out. So I think there's those elements setting you up for success. And so what if I failed?
Yeah, and I think it's very much, and we talked about this a little bit earlier, that fixed versus growth mindset, but it's like having that growth mindset that I can figure this out. I will, as long as there's no, to a certain extent, lives do not depend on this. I'm
Yeah.
not building bridges. I'm not doing brain surgery.
Yes.
I'll figure this out. And I remembered what I was thinking about just a minute ago. I was on this call and we were talking about the fact that everyone, and I can't remember the way they phrased it, but it was like, nowadays, everyone is an influencer. And not in the sense that you're necessarily kind of hawking products and things like that, but rather that like your internal drivers, your core values, the story that you share, the what did you refer to it as, the
Talent
real
wheel.
talent reel, like having the ability to say yes to opportunities, walk through that door, and then be able to articulate those things in a way that it's opening more doors or it's bringing people in. You're starting to find that tribe and being courageous. That was another part of the conversation I had, is having that courage to share those things, maybe be a little bit vulnerable. There's a transparency there. And sure, there's some people that may go, "Ooh, not for me," but the people that it resonates, they will come out of that woodwork and say, wow, let's figure out something we can do together. Or I know someone that would love what you're doing or wants to meet you or something.
I love that. You talked about values. Part of the answering those three questions, that's a really important part too. Like, this is what I care about. I care about authenticity. I care about honesty. I care about transparency. I care about, like, what are those things that you care about? Because that values match. Ask questions in interviews that ground you to what you actually want to see happening and be live inside these companies. I have made one grave mistake in terms of a values mismatch in my career.
Mm-hmm.
And I honored my commitment and I got the heck out. It was not a values match. And I could not look in the mirror and stay in a place that didn't match my values and treat people with respect and do the things that were just basic fundamental for me.
Yeah, because I mean, I think unfortunately a lot of people end up in those situations where they're sort of backed into a corner. They're kind of dependent on this. They need the income, whatever it is, and then they're no longer in control.
Yeah.
And I think that at times in my career, I felt that, where it was like, well, I've kind of worked myself to this place. I'm not sure. And, not that everyone should go have kids in order to have those courageous moments, but like that was what did it for me, was seeing them and the way I interacted and realizing that, like, I'm not happy. And this isn't, I apologize that all these people were commenting and I wasn't noticing, but thank you all for being here. Tyler, Renee, Holly, Colby, CK, thank you for being here. Actually, Tyler Jackson says, conscious, courageous commitment. And I mean, Tyler is a master at insights, and he's always kind of blowing us away on these calls we're on. So, but yeah, it's those values match. Because if you think about it, I mean, this is your life. You're going to spend a lot of time at a job or at a career or whatever. And if there isn't alignment there, and I think the days of like our parents where it was like, work's not supposed to be fun, work's work.
Yeah.
We're no longer in that space. I mean, obviously there are times that are not going to be joyful and you're going to have to grind and get things done. But if you're in a space that is fulfilling to you and you're having an impact in a community that you enjoy, that makes those hard times so much easier to move through.
Yeah. You're also never, ever in a corner you can't get out of.
True.
And I think we back ourselves sometimes into that corner. So again, it comes down to courage. Yeah. Is that Colby Williamson? I can't see the names, but if it is.
Sorry. Let me see. Where are we? Colby. I just lost it.
And Renee and Tyler.
Yeah. Yep. Colby's there.
Oh, hey, Colby.
Yeah. There's Colby. Hey.
Oh, one of my favorites. Colby and I work together at an organization, and such a lovely human.
Hey, Colby. Welcome. Thank you for being here. And there's Tyler. Two superstars. Thank you so much. And do you know Holly?
Hey, Holly. How are you?
Holly is a superstar. I got introduced to Holly about a year ago, and I jumped in the HR space. I had no knowledge other than bumping up against it in my career, and I participated in Disrupt HR, which Holly runs the Disrupt HR here in Tucson as well as up in Phoenix.
Oh, Holly, we have to meet. I love
it. Holly's amazing. I will do an intro. You got to meet Holly. So I want to be very conscious of time here because I know you've got a hard stop. So I would love to know What does Kale do to find joy? I mean, it sounds like you're really finding a lot of joy in your work, but are there things that you like to do outside of work? And I hate
Well,
to call it work, actually. It seems like it's more than just work.
it is so much more than that. It is the most fun I've ever had. I think I said that earlier, but I'm a big travel nut. So I
Mm,
went to 7 countries last year, and I am happiest when I am getting ready for a trip, looking forward to a trip on an airplane, on a beach.
mm.
I also ride a Harley. This was a new
Oh,
hobby that was maybe over the last 5 or 6 years. Never thought I would ever ride one. I'm a car nerd as it stands. If you follow me, you know I make a lot of car references. But yeah, riding a Harley, spending time with my family, those are the things that, and my friends, those are the things that I care about most. And I'm really protective of my energy.
mm,
I've really been learning. Renee would know that. Really been learning how to navigate my space in a way that starts with me as the foundation.
mm-hmm,
I looked in the mirror pretty heavily in 24, called my baby ugly, and was very, very, no, I'm serious. There was some really
mm-hmm,
ugly faces. And I needed to face those and start to really ask myself the hard questions about how I wanted to show up.
mm-hmm,
And, for the people in my life, for myself. And I did a lot of work over the last year. So, yeah, just really pouring into me. I'm a big workout. I would say probably it's more of an obsession. It's probably
mm-hmm.
an unhealthy one, healthy, unhealthy.
Yeah.
But I move my body every day, and I'm very, very, it gives me great power
Mm-hmm.
for my mind also and for my body. So yeah, those are the things that you'll find me doing on the weekends in the evenings.
That's awesome. I'm trying to picture you on a Harley.
I have a photo. I'll send it. I've
Oh,
done a couple of posts about it. People usually find it funny. There's not as many women, I think, that ride. I just think it's so badass, and it's probably the most badass I've ever felt. I don't feel like a badass generally,
mm-hmm.
and it's the most like power that I've ever. I get on, I'm like, holy crap! Like I am on
Yeah.
a like motorcycle, and I can manage this huge bike, and it's so freeing, and like
It's
it clears your mind. It's a wild experience,
I'll
and my
I'll
husband.
bet. I'll bet. I briefly dabbled in with motorcycles when I was in college, and there's something kind of crazy about that freedom and that, sort of the cliche wind in your hair, even though I'm wearing a helmet. But it's like just the power and that energy
Yeah.
is kind of it's addictive.
Race car driving is another one. I've done a couple of racing schools when I was in automotive for 20 years, which
Mm-hmm.
explains the car references. But um, racing is also incredibly, one of the coolest things that you'll ever do. Or if you're in the passenger seat with a race car driver next to you and they show you how it's really done.
Oh, absolutely.
Uh,
Yeah, Kale, we need to get together because I have always wanted to do that. I've always said to my son, I'm like, because my son is a big car nut too, and I said, I want to learn how to race a car, like on a track, like really understand what the limits of a vehicle are, because you shouldn't, and you probably shouldn't be doing it on the public streets, but like
no, you
getting on a
should.
racetrack with someone who knows what they're doing.
Maybe the Autobahn. I will tell
Yes.
you with a little plug for BMW, who I worked for 12
Mm-hmm.
years. They have a performance driving center in South Carolina and one in Thermal,
Mm,
California.
yeah.
And there's a teen driving school, which we sent our daughter to, which is to help them to learn how to trust the car. It
Mm-hmm.
was the best investment that we made in her because we
Mm-hmm.
feel so confident with her on the road. And they have an M performance driving school, which could be really interesting for you. I've taken it. It is so, so, so much fun. And
Mm-hmm.
they really make it really special. So if anyone on the call actually works inside a corporation, they do corporate events too. So I actually took one time, I took 110 people on my team
Wow.
to the driving school. We worked for BMW, so we got a little discount, but it was one of the most incredible 2 days. We had team events. We had, oh gosh, it was so, so much fun. So if you're in a corporation, you could also think about taking your team there.
Awesome. Well, I thank you so much. I know you've got a hard stop, so I want to let you go. Otherwise, We would just keep chatting, but I want to thank you so much for sharing your insights and for the work you're doing, and just for being an amazing human being that's out there having a positive impact. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for saying that. Yeah, this was fun. I'm so committed to LinkedIn and putting hopefully good content out there that is helping people to look in the mirror and see that there is options for them and that they can live their best life. So it's something I never thought I would do. I didn't think I would be an entrepreneur, and I'm having a blast out here. So thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank
And
you
thanks
so
to
much.
everybody for being here also.
Yeah, huge thank you to everyone that tuned in, all the comments. Josh Brantley, thanks for joining us. I used to work with Josh. And Sharon, thank you for being here. And so with that, I'm going to let KL go because I know you got to get to another call. But thank you so much, and have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate it. I loved all the interactions, so thank you so much for that. I apologize I couldn't get to everyone's comments. I feel like I've been, we got this half-hour window, but I feel like I need to maybe expand it a bit because there's always good stuff. So thank you again, everyone, for being here. If you want to share this with anyone who missed it, the replay is available on LinkedIn and YouTube. And one more plug, please give us a follow and a subscribe on Instagram and YouTube. We would love that. And big shout out to my next guest, going to be joining me Thursday, January 30th. For the next Impact Tribe podcast. His name is Javon Wooden. Javon is a sought-after keynote speaker. He's a coach. He's a consultant at Bright Mind Consulting Group, and he specializes in empathetic leadership. And so with that, I'll say thank you again, everyone, for tuning in. It was wonderful. I hope you have an amazing weekend. Get out there and get refreshed and recharged, and we'll see you on the next call. Cheers.